This is the Zach Ansbury Show.
Welcome. This podcast clip comes from an interview with Ryan Buckle from Top Shelf International. Wow. Yeah, did you want to keep just going on that? So there is obviously the perks, you have the business class flights and the five-star hotels and the dinners that are on the company credit card and everything like that. But there's some downsides to it as well, right? I know it's probably maybe do you want to put a bit of realism behind it for people who are, I used to be I'm not that old. I turned 32 a few days ago.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. By the time this airs, that'll be months away. I think this would be like November, maybe December. I used to, that was actually one of the things that I aspired to do, is to travel for work, because I didn't grow up in an affluent family and I didn't leave South Australia until I was over 18. And I thought, if I could find a job that would help me travel for work, that'd be great. And I'm at that point where I'd love to, but if I was to start a family, I think the dynamics would be a little bit different and I'd want to be here a little bit more. So did you want to run through maybe the we all know the pros of it. Did you want to run through maybe the realities? I don't want to label it as cons, but...
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. So it's a massively privileged position to be in, I think. So the important bit is trying to make sure that you bring a level of perspective to it. And I think the cons are, airports aren't great, right? Like when you're flying, economy, picking people up, flying business first, whatever it is. You're still trekking through airports often on your own time, because you've got to be there for the start of the working week. You can't just wake up Monday morning and sort of swan into Melbourne Airport at 10 a.m, get a day flight up there, albeit happens sometimes for visa approvals and the like. There's a lot of admin that goes with it as well. Like, you are constantly applying for visas, sitting in places, like the Chinese embassy trying to get stuff signed off. What are you doing here? All of those things. Depending on the countries you're visiting, even though you've got a business visa, they still look at you like you've got three heads and you're going to do something illegal in the country. So there's a bit of that goes with it. I think time zone's challenging as well. Like, I've learnt probably in the last couple of years how important sleep is, and you sort of glaze over it a bit probably through your 20s and early 30s, but it's sort of, you don't get it back, and it's a really important part of what I classify now to be super important in my wellbeing day to day. So sleep is disrupted. Even 3 or 4 hours of time zone difference, even with a Thailand trip, can be really sort of impactful. So, and then the bad habits that go with it as well, right? Like, you just think, I'll have a few beers with dinner and that'll help me sleep better. And you learn in time that that's not the case. You're just probably sedated rather than sleeping better. And there's a loneliness that comes with it too. Like, for me, Zach, you'll know I'm quite extroverted and can sort of get energy from people wherever or whenever. But I'd imagine for people who like a bit of quiet time and downtime, it's connecting on when you want to connect with people is more challenging as well. There'll be language barriers, and most of the time in the evenings, whoever else you're traveling with, you're out for dinner with, and you just sort of get into this cycle. So if you're not the most disciplined person, it can sort of get to a point where, you feel a bit like a rock star. You're on the road, a lot of it looks glamorous, but the deterioration is probably happening a bit behind the scenes. So you end up in, things can be not great at home. That was, it wasn't necessarily where I'd landed, but it was more a choice of like, far out, what am I actually doing here? Am I married to an organisation, or am I better off being at home? So I think, it looks glamorous. You go and do it for a month, and it's nice to hear someone call your name on a plane and all of that. But after a while, I think I got to a stage where Singapore Airlines was coming around at Christmas Eve to drop me off a massive bottle of champagne to say thanks for the year. And when you get to that point, you're probably spending too much time on a plane. Now, if you were single and happy to be away from home and live out of a suitcase and all of that stuff, you might think it's the most amazing life you could possibly lead. But my experience in 90% of cases is that it's like, oh God, here it is again. Sunday rolls around. You don't sleep great on the Saturday night because you're going to get up and pack your bag, and the same taxi driver turns up at 1 o'clock on a Sunday, and it sounds like I'm whinging about it, but there is a pound of flesh that comes with international travel.
Yeah, I think that's really do appreciate the honesty actually, because I think, you know, it is quite easy to get caught up in the glitz and glamour without realizing. And I do find the same thing, like, you know, 3-4 hours of time zone difference, you think it's nothing, but it does throw you off enough. Even going to places like New Zealand threw me off a little bit.
Massively.
Yeah.
The
and
little
that's not
time
fun.
changes are the worst ones. Like, it's almost better to be on the other side of the world because you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just jet lagged.
Yeah.
But the 3 or 4 hours is just bad. Like, because you're waking up a bit earlier or going to bed a bit later. Like, it's just, and if it's only for a week or two at a time, you can sort of, you get into the swing of it, then you're back into another time zone again. It's like, anyway.
Yeah, I found the same thing as well. If you have like an early morning, say like a red-eye flight or something like that, the night before, I just can't sleep properly.
Going to miss your alarm. And
yeah, I
Yeah,
panic.
it's no
I set like 5 alarms, and then I wake up at 2 o'clock and then 3 o'clock and then 4 o'clock thinking that I'm like late. And
Yeah. Oh, you travel so much. Like, you wake up in a hotel and don't know where you are. That's the worst. Like, and the horror stories you hear of people, like, I'm a pretty good sleeper. Like, I could sleep. I wouldn't have been able to do the job anyway, but sleeping on planes is something I can do without
oh, no way.
chemical input. But a lot of people end up like on bad sleeping tablets, and
Yeah.
it's sort of the dark side of international corporate travel. And a lot of people don't talk about it, but you know, I've seen some not so good things in the time that I did it. But I'd say, like, if you want to get out of it and have had a great experience, you've got to know when to stop. And then secondly, just an ultra level of discipline around how you travel, because if you sort of take all of the smorgasbord of things that are fun when you're traveling, it can end up in a not so good place.
Yeah, I think if I start doing it a bit more regularly when the world starts opening up more, I'm going to knock on the door of you would know Professor Magda Nenetsky-Till.
Yeah, I know the name.
Yeah, so she was the Mars professor before she became the industry growth professor, and she flew quite a lot, and she seems to be on the ball and switched on no matter what time zone she's in, and she's I think she must be very, very disciplined in terms of what she eats, because when I'm away, I'm much more likely to eat things that I wouldn't at home, and I don't exercise as much because, you know, I don't have access to the gym, and your sleep is all off. So I'm gonna make sure I knock on her door and figure out how she's done it.
Some people are just better travelers than others, right? Like most things in life, but I think, like, we probably didn't understand a lot about the mental health that comes with it. I'm sure it's, you know, like, I've been travelling now for nearly 6 years. Like, I've been out of a plane, and I wear it as a badge of honour, I must say. But I would think now that the programs around well-being in an environment where you're jumping around time zones and continents and in and out of airports has improved dramatically.
Yeah, I'm hoping, just early 30s. I'm hoping in, you know, our lifetime that we have, you know, not a 24-hour plane flight to get to Europe, and that would be quite nice.
I've done some wacky ones, mate. Like, the worst, I think, was like a Singapore. There used to be a business class only flight from Singapore to New York. When it was like for a global marketing meeting, essentially. But it flies direct, so it's 18 hours. So you go through 2 sleep cycles.
God,
it's just like, it didn't last. I think the whole purpose of it wasn't for silly pet food marketers like myself. It was more for the global financial markets, and, you know, Singapore and New York being different time zones. But literally, you see, connect a plane full of bankers from New York to Singapore, Singapore to New York, and I got it a couple of times. But man, like, anything over sort of 12, 13, 14 hours is a very long time. I don't care whether you're flying first class, cattle, whatever it is it's almost surreal. Like, you just lose complete touch of reality. Now, some others will say, I could do that easily. But for me, it was like, wow, 2's enough.
Yeah, exactly. I got like super anxious the first time I flew to Europe, because I'm like, oh no, 24 hours on a plane. Like, you know, you get your 2 hours in Dubai or whatever, but far out. Like, I just knew it was going to be hell, and it turned out to be hell. Yep. I had a middle seat in cattle class, so it wasn't fun.
No, you're climbing out all over people. I think, to be fair though, a lot of people you just get so enshrined in it, like it's institutionalized in some way. Like you just get used to getting up, packing your bag, get in the car, get to the airport, get on a plane, get in the car the other side, go to the hotel. Like it's just, I can see why people do it for so long. But I would just caution anyone who's entering that just to make sure you're really clear about why you're doing it. Make sure you understand the impact on yourself as you're going along, because it can sort of creep up on you all of a sudden. Then you're like, wow, where am I?
Yeah. So you touched on...
Hey guys, it's Zach Ainsbury here with just a couple of quick reminders. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, then make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. There are plenty more interviews to come with some of the world's leading marketing academics and practitioners. You do not want to miss these. In the meantime, if you're looking for another way to connect, then follow me on Twitter at Zach Ainsbury. That is ZACANESBURY for my take on the marketing issues of the day.